You can either openly admit to liking WWE, or you watch it as a guilty pleasure. Whichever side you're on, it's impossible not to remember some of the most memorable fights and moments in WWE history. Today, we're taking a look at some of the craziest fights in WWE history and how they went down. Let's dive right in. At number 10, Randy Orton versus Mick Foley. The event was Backlash, and it was mid-April when a young Randy Orton was just getting started with his career. He was a brash young superstar who held the WWE Intercontinental Championship and picked a fight with a legend of hardcore wrestling, Mick Foley. Orton placed the belt on the line for the bout as the world got tucked in to watch one of the craziest fights in WWE history. It involved a barbed wire baseball bat, bag of thumbtacks, the brutal Mick Foley, and the pretty boy Randy Orton. Mick Foley during the fight turned into his alter ego Cactus Jack and tore apart Orton's flesh. However, Orton has a knack for making a comeback when everyone least expects him to do so, and he brought out the signature RKO on the baseball bat and won the fight. Next up, the first Elimination Chamber. This is quite easily one of the craziest fights in WWE history. In fact, it's outrageous that it ranks so low on the list, but then again, the other fights that we'll mention are far crazier. We thank Eric Bischoff, the general manager of Raw at the time, for coming up with the idea of the Elimination Chamber. 6 of the best Raw talents were to go against one another, with Triple H having to defend his World Heavyweight Championship title. Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, and Booker T were all on top of their game, while Kane was as fearsome as ever. Triple H, the defending champion, gave it his all, but the endurance of Shawn Michaels allowed him to persist and win the title in glorious fashion. We've seen many more versions of the Elimination Chamber, but this one ranks ahead of all by a far distance. Then, at number 8, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. Most young fans might not remember that Undertaker and Brock Lesnar had a rivalry long before Lesnar's famous win over Undertaker in 2014. Yes, 12 years before that fight in WrestleMania 30, Undertaker and Brock Lesnar squared up in Hell in a Cell. Back then, Brock was an upcoming rookie, but he was good, becoming the youngest ever WWE champion. Undertaker was already a legend back then, and his earlier challenge to Lesnar had ended in a no contest. Eventually, however, the fight took place in brutal circumstances, and it was bloody. Brock slammed Undertaker down while Undertaker managed to keep him at bay for a long time, but it was Brock Lesnar who came out the winner and retained his WWE Championship, proving that he was more than just hype. Now we have the new brood, the Hardy Boys, versus Edge and Christian. It's impossible to compile a list of the craziest fights in WWE history and not include Jeff Hardy. His legacy will always be remembered for delivering the most outstanding entertainment and for being a crowd favorite. All the way back in 1999, the Hardy brothers took on Edge and Christian in the Terry Invitational Tournament, the first and only one of its kind. The winning tag team would receive the services of Terry Runnels and $100,000. It wasn't your traditional tag team match, and it involved a ladder, and the event itself was a no-mercy one. Fans who witnessed that night in Cleveland still talk about it. For good reason too, because it changed the entire landscape of tag team wrestling, and this fight gave birth to some other crazy fights that we'd eventually witness. Jeff Hardy managed to pull down the bag and win the fight, but the real winners were the fans who saw this incredible showdown. Up next, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Triple H. 2 household names in the industry and legends of the wrestling scene. Stone Cold Steve Austin against Triple H was one of the bloodiest and craziest fights of all time. Steve Austin was run over by a car and required actual surgery, missing more than a year of action in the ring. When he returned, however, the script was written for a revenge plan, and he faced Rikishi, who was driving the car that night. But when the real culprit was revealed, the man behind the master plan to take out Steve Austin, fans were shocked to know that it was actually Triple H. For 40 minutes, we truly saw the 3 stages of hell, as the Texas Rattlesnake and Triple H exchanged deadly blows. The greatness of both performers was on display, as Triple H emerged victorious, but just about. Sitting at number 5, Edge versus Mick Foley. What a way to go out. This was Mick Foley's last match in WWE, and kudos to Edge for challenging the hardcore legend in circumstances that suited Foley so well. Whatever we say will not live up to the hype of this night in Chicago. It was an incredibly rough match, as all fights were involving Foley. However, this one also had a fantastic conclusion, which made it all the crazier. Lita was outside the ring and lit a table on fire, being the wonderful partner that she was. Edge saw his opportunity, and with Foley standing on the ring apron, got the trademark spear from the Edge through the ropes and through the burning fire, delivering one of the most famous victories for Edge in the craziest finales we've ever seen. And then we have Undertaker versus Kane. the tragic tale of two scripted brothers and an unfortunate fire. Kane was hidden away from society, his viciousness kept under the wraps as his brother became a legend in wrestling. When Undertaker was finally introduced to his stage brother, we all knew what to expect: a lengthy feud that'll involve a revenge story from Kane's side full of vengeance and passion. That set the tone for the craziest match in a setting that had never been seen before and doesn't exist any longer. It was called an Inferno match, with the ring surrounded by fire, and the rules were quite simple but horrific. Set your opponent/brother on fire and you win. What followed was a great tussle, but Undertaker had the upper hand as he booted his brother into the flames. Kane was literally set on fire, running out of the arena ablaze. At number 3, Mankind vs. The Rock. Mick Foley features way more times than anybody else, and for good reason. We can't think of any other superstar who put on a show more times than Mankind. The beloved character was representing the company as the WWE Champion, but McMahon, always in search of a good story, wanted to get the gold back on The Rock, who was aligned with McMahon at the time. The match was I Quit, as The Rock went all out, smashing Mankind 11 times with a steel chair across his head after handcuffing his hands. Mankind got played a lot worse even after the beating because he was down but not out of the fight. However, the referee called for the bell because he heard screams of I quit, I quit, I quit. It was later revealed that the screams were pre-recorded and played by Shane McMahon, and Mankind hadn't actually quit. We're willing to overlook the sound effects, but Mick Foley took a brutal beating in this one. And then Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Best friends turned into bitter enemies, and back to being best friends, Triple H and Shawn Michaels had one of the best story arcs throughout WWE. However, their rivalry hit its peak when they took on each other in Hell in a Cell in 2004. It was definitely one of the best feuds of the new millennium, and the chemistry of the duo means that it'll go down in history as one of the greatest fights of all time. In a grueling match that lasted almost 50 minutes, Triple H and Shawn Michaels managed to break each other many times, with the momentum shifting between the two. Triple H finally emerged victorious from the fight as Shawn Michaels' resolve was broken after nearly an hour of fighting. Now, at number 1, Royal Rumble 2006. This probably ranks at the top purely because of how long it went on, and because of the number of superstars involved in this one. With wrestlers entering the ring one by one, it was an epic performance by Triple H and Rey Mysterio, who were the first ones in. Mysterio got beaten up and was out of the picture for a while, as Big Show and Kane eliminated Bobby Lashley. Triple H eliminated the Big Duo at the same time, and the fight also marked the return of RVD. With only 5 participants left, Triple H, RVD, Rey Mysterio, Carlito, and Randy Orton, the final push began. RVD threw out Carlito and ended up crashing on the floor too. In the end, Triple H and Randy Orton teamed up to throw Mysterio out, but their plan failed, with Mysterio performing the 619 on both of them and going on to win the famous bout. That's a wrap for this video. Do you remember all of these crazy fights? And did we miss any others from WWE's glorious history? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.